us, not just for Zenflow, not just for Zencode, but essentially for how softwares are getting built in the AI space. And how AI is essentially transforming the engineering space and how people are building code, right? So it essentially helps people write code instantly, spin up features on demand, and essentially accelerates your entire development lifecycle processes. But how painful it is to ship products with AI. And sometimes, speed comes without chaos, and power without process can actually create a lot of rework when you build softwares using AI. And you know what? Most of the teams are still in the era of vibe coding and prompting, regenerating, and essentially hoping the output would to hold together. So today is the day that we are unveiling something super special and super interesting. Uh, we are moving from prompt-driven guesswork to more of an AI-driven, AI-first engineering space where speed and reliability comes together and changes the world. So today we are unveiling Zenflow. So to talk more about Zenflow, I have Archie, our CEO, with us. And hi, Archie. And I have a couple of questions from the audience, from everybody around the space to ask Archie. And Archie, the first question from the community, and of course for me as well, is when you look at how teams are essentially using AI today, what what makes you feel that is fundamentally broken out?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for having me, Shantanu. Super honored to be here. Been watching the webinars in the past couple of weeks, and good work. So, yeah, so I think what's fundamentally broken today is like how there's a mismatch between how engineers are working and how AI works. So let me just kind of elaborate. So as an engineer working, AI can actually generate code very quickly. It's very fast, but it doesn't naturally flow with the same steps the team uses to plan, review, and also maintain the code over time. So it's not actually embedded into the engineer's workflow. It's more ad hoc, where the engineer is going out, like trying to do a certain problem solving, and then coming back, and then kind of embedding it. And so that choppiness, that context switching that the engineer needs to do between the workflow they are in with their teams, and then just going and generating AI code is a problem. It's a workflow problem, right? So the code in itself is not bad, but the workflow they're working
Right.
on is bad, and that's where AI hasn't caught up, and that's why we launched Zenflow, which is more about the workflows engineers are going to be working with, how we've incorporated things like spec-driven development and whatnot in the workflows.
Makes sense. Thank you so much for answering that question. So that brings me to the next question that I have in my mind. So where does the whole web vibe coding thing fall apart? I mean, that has been the talk of the town.
Yeah, I mean, vibe coding is great, and there are different types of vibe coders. Even professional engineers are coding vibe coding, and then there are like the business folks who have started vibe coding as well. But it breaks down essentially when the ownership extends beyond one person, or who wrote that prompt, right? Because in vibe coding, kind of driven development, um, processes cannot be like you cannot capture like the prompts again and again across your team. The processes are not repeatable, the intent isn't captured, the context gets lost once you've kind of vibe coded with a bunch of prompts. And so if you want to reverse engineer the decisions the code made or you made with AI, it's kind of very difficult, right? And that makes it super hard to reproduce changes, hard to review confidently, and then hard to operate in a team at scale, or even if team of two people, vibe coding starts to break down.
Makes sense. So you just mentioned, team at scale. So when we talk about enterprises, so when enterprises teams essentially think about AI adoption in their team for engineering, for a broader engineering team, so what essentially worries them about the most?
Yeah, so spoken to like hundreds of CTOs, and the main kind of two things I hear again and again is first is repeatability, that they want to repeat repeatable processes that they can relate within different teams. The second is kind of more control over the output, right? Because these models are not deterministic, you're not able to control that process and the quality of the code. And the questions that I hear literally practically every kind of a workshop I do with the engineers is like, can we review what the AI did? Can we rerun it if the requirements change, because they do change in a corporate setting all the time? Can a different engineer understand the result next week, because this work may get hand over to another engineer, and that happens all the time as well. So in general, enterprises are not afraid of AI. They are afraid of introducing something more like opaqueness into the process that already had a lot of accountability over the last couple of decades, right? And so that's where structure, workflows, verification, all three of these things matter a lot to enterprises.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much, Aji, for that. Last question before we jump into the demo and stuff. So, in simple terms, what essentially changes when a team adopts Zenflow? So, we know people have been using the extension extensively. So, what changes for them when they shift to Zenflow?
Yeah, it's like I was describing. It's workflow, and it's the workflow changes how they actually start a task and complete the task. So in Zenflow, basically, as you'll see shortly, engineers can start with a task, let the system propose a plan. You can review the plan, you can edit it as you and refine it as you'd like. So there's no longer guessing work around how AI is planning your work, right? And so you're kind of planning with AI, with the specs they have generated, how you want your work to be done. Once you get on the planning stage, you get into the implementation stage, where it starts to break down the spec that you've generated with AI, with your contribution, into different kind of tasks, and from there it'll start implementing it. Now once it's done, you could actually review it with another agent. And so that's one of the differentiators with Zenflow as well, is that the agents review each other's work. So you could actually generate work with Claude Code and review it with GPT 5.2, right? And so that makes the review process super, I would say, comprehensive and easy. uh, and that shift makes AI easier to review, easier to correct, and much easier to integrate into, I would say, real engineering workflows as you're working on, any, it could be anything. It could be new feature, refactoring tasks, refactoring code, or even kind of bugs, smaller bugs. So that's the difference. In Zenflow, it's all workflow based, and on top, which is like icing on the cake, you can parallelize a bunch of agents. So if you're working on refactoring a certain piece of code, you can parallelize that as a workflow that runs in parallel to, say, you're launching a new feature on a different part of the code base, and you can parallelize that workflow. And then you could do like 10s, 20s, and keep track of that, which is very important, because in the chat interface, keeping track of all the chats is like, I just couldn't do it. But in Zenflow, it just becomes really seamless as you have projects and tasks, and kind of a way to track it across Kanban, and a visual way to track where the agents are, and where each agent is within the workflow. It becomes really seamless for you to manage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Archie, for answering all those questions and throwing light about the possibilities of Zenflow. So that's the why. Now let's see the how. So, hi, Alex. Welcome back again to the webinar. But before Alex jumps into the demo, I have a very short and small video which will essentially walk you through on the superpowers of Zenflow. So, there we go. Awesome. So that's the video. That's the superpower of Zenflow. So let's see that in action. Alex, the stage is all yours.
Right. Thank you, Shantanu, and thank you for inviting me again. It was quite fun to make this video, actually. I spent quite a long time on this, but now I can extend this beyond just 1 minute of this video. So let me share my screen over here. Let's see, screen, entire screen. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is not Zenflow, of course. This is just my demo environment. So just to sort of prepare to what I will be demoing today, I will be doing all the development, with Zenflow using this website application. So it is essentially a platform, a website for the conferences, for call for papers. It has a backend and has some user management system. It has obviously front end. So of course, managing this sort of application, this monorepo, can be quite tricky, especially if you want to implement a lot of new features. All right, so let's say I want to add some UI elements. I want to add a dark theme. I want to add some new features. And of course, when I have AI agents to help me, I want to parallelize that as much as possible. And this is where Zenflow comes in. So let me switch to Zenflow. As already been discussed, as already was mentioned by Archie, uh, the idea behind Zenflow is that you don't just play prompt roulette, right? You actually let agents to gather requirements, you let the agents spec, you let agents plan, then all of this helps them to be better at producing you production-ready results. And this also all can be run in parallel. So you're not limited to only your currently open copy of the repository, which you have in your IDE. Agents can work in their own sandboxes. And this allows me as a developer to essentially parallelize multiple tasks being implemented by multiple agents. So for example, I want to, as I mentioned, I want to add dark theme to the website. I want to maybe speed up dashboard page loading, because as you've seen, it takes some time to load all the things, right? And I also maybe want to fix some bugs. I want to create end-to-end tests. And I want, of course, all of this done ideally yesterday. But the reality is it's not there yet, right? So what I can do with Zencoder, with Zenflow now, I still used to talking about Zencoder. With Zenflow, you can essentially create all these tasks. By default, you can switch to this Kanban view. You can see all different tasks in the states, in different states. You can create new tasks depending on what kind of workflow you have in mind, right? So you can opt for full software spec-driven development workflow, or maybe you want something simple like a quick change. Maybe you want to fix a bug, or maybe you want to define your own custom workflows, right? You can also do that if you have some specific flows which you find useful, or maybe you think that would be suitable for that specific kind of task. So for example, I have as an example this language or framework version update workflow, which is sort of personalized to this specific kind of task, and you want the agent to follow that kind of flow as it goes on approaching this task. Let me actually leverage the fact that I can duplicate the task, so that I don't spend a lot of time on rewriting the prompts and whatnot. So let me just duplicate this one. So it's a pretty simple task, right? Well, it should be pretty simple. I'm adding a dark theme to the website, and I want to switch in the header of the pages. So I can select which agent I want to be running as the sort of backbone of this task implementation. I can also, if I want to see what kind of different solutions my different agents would come up with. So let's say I want to have my GPT 5.2 take a try on this task. I want to also Claude to take a try on this task, and so on. I can actually run several parallel agents, essentially several parallel tasks with any agents you might have, and then they will start in parallel. For each of them, an isolated copy of the code base will be created. So essentially, they are working their own sandbox environment. They don't conflict with each other, even though they are essentially would be working on the same feature and most likely on the same files, right? So if you are working in the IDE, most likely if you try to run several agents working on the same task, they would start to conflict with each other because they would try to modify the same files over and over, right? So I can essentially just create 4 tasks with 4 different agents. Let's do that. Oh, looks like I need to sign in. I will skip then the encoder, I guess, and let's just run 2 with codex and clone. Okay, create and run. So as you can see, I started 2 tasks in parallel. They are working on their own environments. One with cloud code, one with codex, and they are following specific steps defined in my plan. So as I've shown, I've selected a full spec-driven development, which means it will first start with gathering requirements, then write some text specification, then do some planning, and then implement. Now, just to save us some time, I will actually switch to the task which is already done previously, right? It is in review. So it was following the same spec-driven development flow, the same plan. As you can see now, instead of implementation step, it actually created the actual plan which it wanted to follow. You can see the plan in the over here. I can modify it if I need to. I can review it. If there are any things which I find not useful or maybe not correct, I can also modify it right inside the Zenflow. And then as the agent progresses, it essentially just marks the task done. And the nice thing is that as I mentioned, it is working in its own environment. So I can essentially just run the same, again, I can first of all run the same multiple agents in parallel, but I can also allow them to verify work independently, because they can essentially just start a server, and ideally you programmed your application to, if it binds to some ports, ideally you made it run a random port so it doesn't conflict, but essentially the agents can on their own, in their own sandbox, they can start the server, they can do the validation, they can run tests. So I think in this case it tried to run a playwright somewhere here. I don't see it, but yes, essentially would try to maybe try to run playwright MCP server to actually run the browser and see how it works, how it looks, and so on. And we can actually do run the application as well from this sandbox. So let me actually stop my running server from the main branch, and I can start server here to see what the agents have come up with. Let me start my environment and do npm run dev, npm install, npm run dev. So now I should see my website switching to black, to dark theme, right? So I have now a switch over here, which allows me to switch between a light and dark theme. And of course, it is available across all the pages, across all the website. And again, the agent was working independently on its own code base, on its own copy of the code base. And as you can see, there are actually now other 2 agents which are working on the same task independently. And once they are done, like they're not conflicting with this previous implementation. Now, in addition to human verification, right, of course, we as developers still try to review. Well, not everybody tries to review, but still, we try to hopefully review what AI produces. But it is always good to have sort of a second opinion on every step, right? So because of that, we also introduced the ability for one agent review another agent. As you can see, there's this button over here, which basically allows another agent of your choice. You can define the review agent in settings. Allows this agent to essentially review the work of the agent you initially started the task with. So let's say in this case, I started the task with Codex, and I think my review agent is Cloud Code. So essentially, I can ask, for example, Opus 4.5 to review the work done by GPT 5.2, and this would help them afterwards essentially to come up with a better plan, better solution. Because if you tried to, for example, if you experienced asking the different models the same question, the same task, you probably know that they usually, or at least sometimes, can give completely opposite answers. So it's always nice to have one agent sort of making sure that another agent is doing good work, or maybe they can also basically work together to come up with a better plan in the end, a better solution in the end. Yeah, so in the meantime, as you can see, in this case, Codex is done with the planning, and now it has these 8 steps in its plan, which we can also again review in the plan.md, see what is the plan for each step, what it will try to do, and so on. Now, once the task is done, of course, it's nice to also get it merged or create a pull request, which you can also do inside Zenflow as well. So let me switch to my finished end-to-end test example here. As you can see, in this case, it was quite a long plan. But you can, of course, just either create a pull request or merge right from the Zenflow app. Or if you need to have more granular control, maybe if you are maybe used more to some specific plugins in the IDE, you can of course open also this specific sandbox in your IDE, the IDE of choice, and do all the work there. Hopefully with the help of Zencoder plugin in that IDE, or if there are any other reasons you might want to switch there, you can again with a single click just switch to the IDE of choice and go from there. Now, all of this I've been showing on the single project, but of course, the reality is you as a developer usually working on the multiple projects potentially, right? And you of course want to oversee agents working on all the different projects, all different tasks across all the projects you have at hand. And with Zenflow, it is as easy as just switching the view to all projects. You can see we can switch to the board. We can see all the tasks across all different projects and their states, if they're in progress, if they're in review, if there is any action required from the developers. You can see what tasks are done, and you can of course also create a new task from this view as well, and then assign to a specific project. Now let me switch back to my list and to my project over here. Yeah, I would say that's essentially the main gist of what Zenflow app allows you to do, and how it allows you to essentially scale your agentic workflows beyond just simple prompt inside the IDE to managing actually the whole fleet of agents across multiple projects running in parallel in the isolated sandboxes so that they do not conflict with each other. Yeah, with that, I think that's all for the demo. And Shantanu, if there are any questions, or if there are any questions in the chat, we'll be happy to answer them.
Sure. So there are a few questions on LinkedIn. I'll just read it out loud for you. So one is, how does the LLM balance work? As I have sometimes two different AI systems to compare and to get out of a debug loop.
Good question. So, well, I need to, I guess, clarification. So by LLM balance, does this mean when they compete with each other, or does this refer to the cost of running multiple LLMs? Because I can interpret this kind of in both ways, but I can try to answer both options, right? So when it comes to one LLM reviewing the other, or one LLM interacting with each other, of course, it is useful because you essentially got second opinion, third opinion, right? So again, so in this case, I have the task being run by Codex, but I can ask the Cloud Code or Gemini or whatever is in Coder CLI review this, and different models, they obviously excel at different tasks. They excel at different inputs and outputs, and it definitely helps to get much better quality of the results when you can have several models of different nature, of different types, compete with each other or work together to give you, again, much better results. Now, on the other possible interpretation of this question on the cost, of course, spec-driven development does require higher token consumption, and that's why we actually allow you to bring any CLIs you might already use, right? So I mentioned Codex, I mentioned Cloud Code, Gemini, uh, which sometimes or usually provides sort of a lot of cost subsidization, right, to you as user, as developer. So you can leverage that and get the best of the worlds. As you can get the spec-driven development with a UI, which you can use out of the box without worrying about sandboxing and all that, but also leverage all different agents, all different models provided and subsidized by all the different third-party labs as well.
Got it. Thank you so much, Alex, for answering that question. I think this is from Valentine from LinkedIn. So he has another follow up. I'll just go ahead. So when we decide to assign a specific LLM a specific task, how can I position Zenflow choice then? Like cursor or perplexity approach?
Mhm. Good question. So I would say that Zenflow and Cursor are not directly sort of in the same space, if you will, right? So again, the issue with Cursor, much like with any other IDE, is that it is usually limited to a specific copy of the project, of the repository you're working on. So let's say in our plugin in Encoder, you can run multiple parallel agents, right? But they are still working on the same copy of the project. So if they are working on the task which might involve modifying the same file by different agents, they might start to conflict with each other. They might start to maybe rewrite changes of each other and so on. Whereas in Zenflow, it is designed with managing AI fleets in mind, and these is essentially a completely different UI, which allows you as a developer, as a AI engineer, to better oversee the progress of the AI agents working on the tasks. It allows you to, without any hassle, sandbox all the different agents in their own sandbox, right? So that they don't conflict with each other, and you can essentially parallelize all your tasks done by agents to, pretty much until you hit the limits of whatever CLI you're using.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex, for answering that question. I don't see any other questions. I think there's a good feedback again from same Valentine. Nice Trello kind of project management approach and workflows. So that's a good feedback that we have. But yeah, before we close down for the day, just one question from my side, Alex. For someone who's watching this and thinking that he has to get started, so what would be the first step?
Well, try on your real life examples, try on your real life tasks, right? So in my case, like I've shown in my this website environment, right, I have pretty much real tasks, what you would get in your real life projects, right? So everybody nowadays is crazy about having dark theme. So obviously you want to implement these. It's always nice to have end-to-end tests, and people usually don't have time to implement this, and you can offload this to your agents. But what is nice about specifically about offloading this to Zenflow is that you can actually, as I mentioned, run those tasks in parallel. You don't need to wait for one agent to finish before you start the other task, and they don't just blindly output whatever LLM generates. They can actually do the work before they even start the coding, right? Before they start the implementation, they can gather requirements. Maybe they want to clarify something from you as a developer, as a sort of, in this case, already product manager, I guess, rather than developer. Um, they can create a plan, they can create a specification, and then it is much easier for them to follow concrete steps. And it leads to much better results compared to just trying to prompt the agent and then doing some follow-up after follow-up. And you probably all been there when you ask the agent to implement the feature. Then you do a follow-up to maybe tweak something simple, and the agent completely reworks the whole thing just because for whatever reason it decided to change the whole thing because you asked it to just switch the type of selector you wanted in the form or whatever, right? So obviously, and agents have a concrete plan, concrete files to check upon, and when you also can have different LLM, keeping them honest. It is, as you can see, the task just got in reviews, which means it was done by Codex. So you can have essentially other tools, other AIs to help you in this journey to transform into AI first engineer.
Thank you so much, Alex, for answering that question. I think that brings us to the end of the demo. We don't have any more questions that are coming along the line. But if you have any questions that you're shy enough to ask on this platform, just feel free to reach us out on support@zenflow.ai, or you can send your queries on Discord, Slack. Alex, me, Leon, everybody from the team is there, and we'll be more than happy to help. So, having said that, that brings me to the end of the session. Once again, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, Archie, for joining in. It was lovely having you both here. And again, AI has already changed how fast we build, and now Zenflow is changing how well we build things out. So once again, give it a shot. Let us how you like it, and more than happy to get your feedback on Zenflow. And once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you again the next one. Till then, take care.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye.